At the turn of the tide, I can see an innate desire. Sword in hand, warriors side by side. I can feel it, it burns like fire. Worlds collide, an unstable landscape, side by side. But that's what this man takes. Be it might, an unlikely allegiance. We will fight because that's the best defense. No turning back for such is our path. This day we find a glorious death. Glorious death. Our goal, our mission is clear as we ride against a dark empire. By my soul, may the last thing they hear be the roar of this fading choir. Disobey the savagery mindset. Not today, we'll let loose and find it. Brutal will define our reaction. Rip out the throat of each one in their faction. No turning back for such is our path. This day we find a glorious death. Fear not, my friend, for right is the path. They shall remember glorious death. Glorious. The angels have fallen, my allies are beaten and broken down. I shed not a tear. After all, this is why we are here. A war we were not supposed to win. If I'm to die tonight, I'll kill every demon that stands in my spine. Go! You must say me a fool. I stand on the skeletons of every goal. If I'm to die, well, this very night, we'll kill every demon that stands in us. No turning back, for such is our path. This day we find a glorious death. Fear not, my friend, for right is the path. They shall remember glorious death. Make them remember glorious death. Glorious surrounding me down. Now I'm not afraid. After all, you made me cool reputation. I am you, you are me, and together we reflect our reality. And together we stand for what's right again. And together it all just makes our way. And together there is some hope again. And together we're one and the same. And together we stand for what's right again. And together it all just makes our way. And together there is some hope again. And together we're one and all. And together we stand for what's right again. And together it all just makes our way. And together there is some hope again. And together we're one and the same. Okay, so that was cool intro videos. I think I'm going to be using Norfolk Glorious Death. It's a fantastic intro video, along with the Rippaverse tribute by Doug Shea, because that's so good as well. But I am back. I got a bit awkward here, trying to look into the camera and speak down to the microphone. Yes, nice to have you in the chat, Andrew. Of course, I'll put the link in here if you want to come on. That's perfectly okay. Okay, I sent it. If you want to come back on to welcome me back, add a little bit, that's perfectly fine. If you're not, you're too busy. We got a lot of stuff to be talking about because I've been gone for a while in the process of a move. Finally got my computer back online, so I'm going to get back into making the content. Of course, Braxcast Live, probably going to be returning every Friday at 6 p.m. I do have a job up here in the Granite States, and it seems like Fridays is going to be a day off for me. So Friday at 6 p.m. is probably going to be the time. So you're used to Friday at 6 p.m. If that worked for you, that's probably the time it's going to work for me. And I'll probably be doing that every week, where I announce what the stream is going to be about, usually Wednesday or Thursday. It depends on how lazy I am. But we've got so much to talk about, and we're going to share. Yes, this one. So we're going to be talking about Norfolk Glorious Death. This is, of course, the big announcement that happened while I was up at PorkFest. And of course, I backed this day one. Really excited for this. This is the book that people really wanted, and they had a perfect launch for this, of course, with the single Glorious Death by Dan Vasc and Eric July. And of course, people were always pestering Dan Vasc when he appeared on streams with Eric, guys, got to do something together. And let me add this to the stage here, so I can actually get that scene. Let's see. So yeah, almost $200,000 in sales. This is a 64 pager, the number one, and this is fulfilling Q4 2025. So probably around October, November. I think having those quarter ranges is better than a specific month, since Horseman missed that mid-July, and it seems like it's going to be closer to August, but stuff happens. I believe the CGCs just got signed. It's really cool to see. Chuck posted about it.
see if I can find that tweet. But for now, we're talking about Norfolka. I mean, of course, this is some fantastic preview art. You've got Ronaldson Farrar, if I'm getting his name correctly. I can never pronounce his name correctly, but he was a cover artist, I believe, for a cover of Gooding, and he's the interior artist for Norfolka, and he seems to have drawn some really cool set pieces. And it seems like Eric gave him a really interesting script to work with. And I'm so excited to see what Norfolka is about. And of course, listening to Glorious Death, the more I listen to it, it's going to be very relevant to what the story is, because as we know by reading Norfolka's first appearance in the end of Ice 1, they explicitly say that their lyrics are not make-believe. So when they're singing about stuff, it's actually hints about what they're doing. And of course, we're getting these vinyls as well. I'm getting them, and I'll probably get a record player like on Braxcast, because this is there we go. I accidentally hit mute on the mic, but yeah. So this is my filming setup, and I got a bunch of stuff. But the way I got that little overhead tripod is a lot better than what I was using back when I was in New York. And I think the first one, Great War Separation 2, was filmed with that. Actually, was a pretty decent review. I got to get better with framing and lighting, but it's going to be a better setup. More time I have with it. But I got Yaira and Isom right there, which is really, really cool. But hopefully my audio is in fact back, and it should be. But we got 32 flavors of Nick Weiser. I think Nick is just his name. It's dropping by to say hello. And yes, we are doing the live stream, I believe, tomorrow at 6 p.m. And we're going to be talking all about the Great War of Separation #2, which I reviewed. Fantastic book. Really, really like the story. I am good now. That's good. But of course, we're talking about Norfolka. We got this epic Norfolka poster. And I got some poster frames. I got to start putting posters up and stuff. But it's like one thing at a time. And I'm like... really lazy, but man, last week was really intense. It's like the second week I've been in this apartment, and like the first week, like later in the week, my parents came and brought all my stuff to me, and like the first half of the week, like Monday to Wednesday, I had to get like my car registered, I had to get my license, and I was buying a bunch of stuff, and I bought so much stuff from Walmart. I basically live in Walmart. Like that's my joke, is that I don't live in New Hampshire. I live in Walmart because I've gone to Walmart so many freaking times. But yeah, Thursday and Friday were pretty busy because that was like getting all my stuff moved. We got a bunch of furniture, got some stuff from Goodwill, and then that weekend I set up, like, I've got my living room set up. I've got a really tiny living room. We've got a decent sized kitchen, and both the bedrooms are decently sized, but the living room is basically microscopic. Like, it's barely able to fit like the TV, like a dresser I got as a TV stand, and then like a nightstand for my consoles, and then like one sofa chair. That's basically all I have in that living room. It's very small, and then I got some miscellaneous stuff in there as well. And then the bedroom, I still don't have my mattress yet. Once I get the mattress, I have the foundation, and I'm sleeping on an air mattress, but I'm should get the mattress tomorrow, and it's going to be like 100 pounds, but I have to haul it up because I live on the second floor. So that'll be fun. But once I get that, I'll feel like more comfortable with setting up my living room, and of course getting like the bed frame, I don't know, decently soon. And then I'll have to take off the mattress and the foundation and build the bed frame and put it all on there. But that shouldn't be decently easy. But anyway, sure, you guys don't want to hear me talk about getting my apartment all settled up. But this is, of course, really exciting to see Ronaldson Friere. That's how you say it. Get interior work, and it seems like said, this is really cool stuff. So, and I'm just really excited for Norfolka because it's going to be probably the most interesting, probably one of the more interesting books that the Rippaverse puts out. and not because the other books are uninteresting, but because there's just a lot of lore that we get with the idea of Takari and Volodon. Of course, them being like these 7-foot tall gods, also just masquerading as a metal band, which is really cool. Of course, the metal band, that's, definitely Eric's like design, because he's a metalhead. He's got backwards, and this also likes comics, so having like a superhero metal band is actually a pretty cool idea, and I think it's going to do really, really well. And the fans wanted Norfolka since they found out about Norfolka with Item #1, and with the first Rip reveal having Norfolka being announced, that made it like a really good event. And I think that was what made the Rip reveal something really good. And hopefully for the next Rip reveal, if this one does well, and it seems like it's doing well, it's probably going to hit that $200,000 mark. And I imagine throughout its entire limited run, it'll probably make around $1 million when you take, it's going to be like around 4 issues or so. I imagine it's going to be about $1 million when you factor in the campaign numbers or the collection numbers, and then of course all the after sales. And I'm sure there's going to be an omnibus collection. And speaking of omnibus collections, we do have the omnibus, which I'm not sure if I'm going to get, because I already have all the content multiple times over, and that would just be something to get as a collector. And I don't think collected omnibuses are not as collectible as individual issues, so it's not something that I'm like, oh, I'm super excited to get. But it's really cool, and I think decently cheap way to get like all of the Rippaverse and one of those massive collected editions, like the Invincible compendiums around that size, where there's 3 Invincible compendiums that collect all, I think it's 144 issues of Invincible, and it's of course 25 trade paperbacks, and I have all the trades for Invincible. They survived the move as well, but this is of course Norfolka cover A, and I believe if I can get to the covers here, cover A is done by Kanan White. Of course, Kanan White is that A cover artist. Does a fantastic job with his covers. And this is an absolute fantastic one. Of course, we've got Takari. We've got, I think this is Validon, and that's actually Takari. My mistake. A really cool cityscape. And then we've got cover B, which is illustrated by Gabriel Akano. A bit disappointed that we seemingly do not have a retro cover. And yeah, it does not seem like we have a retro cover for the cover B. It'd be nice to have this. Of course, we got this one shot of this elf-looking guy. We don't know his name yet exactly, but I'm sure we'll be introduced to him if he is on the cover, at least in passing. Might be like an end reveal, and he'll be expanded upon in the later issues. That probably is on brand for comic books. But this is a really cool cool illustration done by Gabriel Icano, if I'm getting that correctly. And of course, we've got a cover by Katerina Kaliminyu, if I'm getting this correctly. This is the C cover foiled and embossed, which is absolutely going to be stunning looking. Of course, this is another really nice portrait illustration of one character. Of course, you've got a silver-haired beauty sitting on a throne with lightning in the back. That's definitely a really, really cool drawing. It's going to be a really exciting one. And of course, we've got the mass print cover, and that's going to be by Yevgeny Sokolov and Jesse Higi, if I am getting that correctly. And this is definitely a pretty good cover. Of course, we got Norfolka covered up by this guy's head here. And we seem to have Volodon here with probably some of his allies from the ancient Northland. Of course, my theory, I believe Gorm is the name of Yaira's husband when she first arrived on Earth many, many centuries ago. Bit of spoilers for Yaira #1. Yes, no retro cover for Glorious Death #1. Boo boo. That should be something for at least #2. At least one of the issues in the limited series should have a retro cover. I certainly will. And this is me right now. It's like, Eric, if you're watching this, and I know you like and retweet, if you watch the VOD while you're doing something, you got to get a retro Norfolka cover for at least one of the issues, because I love the retro covers. They're probably my favorite covers, the retro covers. And I know I haven't seen GBA, but I know you guys have wanted me to do a tier list for the covers, like take all of the covers, and that's like it's a bit intimidating because there's just so many at this point. Um, that like to make that tier list would be a bit intimidating, but it's something I ought to do, and I probably would be putting basically all of the cover Bs, the retro covers, in the S and A tiers because they're just all absolute bangers. I love them all so much. But yeah, this is cover D of Norfolk. It looks absolutely fantastic. Is a really nice drawing, and of course we've got Volodon here being shown off. So there is that. And of course, I was talking about the omnibus. And this is, of course, the Rippaverse omnibus collection. Of course, showing off some art of the first 3 years of the Rippaverse. This was what was announced for Rippaverse Day. Rippaverse Day being July 11th, I believe. And last year they did the $5 sale, if I'm getting that correctly. And of course, a lot of people hemmed and hawed about that, but most of the fans are really interested. You got people who got in on like 1 or 2 books, and then they got in on the rest of the books. I actually got a comment about that on my Substack about someone who got like a lot of books after reading one and actually liking the one book that he got from the $5 sale. So, you know, you might not be able to get a $5 customer to be a $50 customer, but you can get a $5 customer to be like a $25 customer pretty easily, as long as what you sell for $5 is actually good. And I think the Rippaverse puts out good stuff, although of course, that's been very hotly debated, but I'm not here to talk about this. But this is a really cool collection. It's going to be 1,100 pages. And of course, I believe both of these covers are by Kane and White, and they are doing signed of these. I don't think they're doing signed and graded, just regular old signed ones. And like I said, this is one I'm probably not going to get in on because these are very expensive. But this is including ISOM 1 to 3, Alpha Core, Blood Roof, Gooding, Yaira 1 to 3, which is really cool because Yaira 3 hasn't exactly released yet. Same with Horseman number 1. We got Zale and Kills Must Die, the first 2 issues of Great War Separation, Salvage Sersha, Dirty Deeds, Catch and Kill, which is going to be the short story for Ripazine number 4, which again has not released yet, Norfolk A Glorious Death, and the first Saints and Sinners. So this is over 1,300 pages of content, which is an absolute smorgasbord of comics. So getting let's see, I mean, but yeah, you're going to be paying like 150 for, and of course you can split it up in payments, but I'm not going to go and do that. But yeah, it definitely is a bit pricey for that. But of course you're getting 1,300 pages. So you take, let's see, 1,300 divided by 150, it's about oh yeah, it's like like $8 a page or something like that. So I mean, it's not the cheapest for paying per what you pay per page, but it is definitely going to be pretty decent collection. And if you want to get it on the Rippaverse in its totality and you don't mind making a big purchase, then that's pretty good. But when you have a book like this size, it makes it hard to read casually. So it's something you have to like read on a table. Like you can't read it on bed. You can't read it holding up because it's going to be like, I don't know, like 5 to 10 pounds. It's going to be decently heavy because you just have like the binding, and it's just so freaking heavy for when you've got like that much paper. And of course, you have to have a really thick binding. But I'm sure this is going to be like a really cool looking omnibus. So if they keep imagine it's going to be one of them they keep in print. I think you've got yes, let's see, 170 for one and then 150 for the other. So one that's a bit more collectible. Of course, you got ISOM in this one. This is the collection exclusive. And then, of course, you've got just the one that they're going to be selling in perpetuity. But the collection exclusive one is, of course, got this pretty epic drawing of ISOM by Kane and White, which I think is a really good cover. But of course, this is the one that you would just have to collect. And of course, they are doing, I believe, signed ones for these. If I can get, so you got to read and collect. So, so you see, they are doing signed of these as well, but not signed and graded. I'm not sure if CGC could even grade something this thick. They probably could, but it's just not necessarily something that they need. But it's again, it's not something that like, it's a bit too pricey, especially since I have to pay rent on the first of the month in my power and my gas bill, and it's like, well, this is probably like 150 is probably going to be most of my utility bill. So it's like I probably should pay it, should save the money for that instead of a collection of books I already have. So that's where my brain is at. But this is a really cool thing for people who have it in their budget. And of course, I think it's a really cool thing to do in general. And I think like doing stuff for Rippaverse Day is always really warranted. And it was just like a pretty cool thing. I think the $5 sale was, more cool or cooler, however you want to say it. But this certainly is a really cool thing to have done. I was really happy to see this announced that they did celebrate Rippaverse Day. Of course, I think, doing more, like flash sales, and of course, I think at one point, or at least at some point, like dropping a collection on Rippaverse Day would be really cool. It's like, hey man, Yaira number 5, if Yaira number, because I imagine Yaira number 4 is going to come out probably around next winter at the pace that it's going, and like be like, hey, Yaira number 5 on Rippaverse Day, or Isom number 4, or like a young Isom series, which I really want is a young Isom series. I think when Jack Herbert, I forgot his name, gets off of drawing Great War of Separation, get him on a young Isom series, because he would be fantastic, because he's already drawn young Isom, like Isom in his youth. Of course, he'd be a bit aged up, but he has experience with drawing Isom, and he's a fantastic artist. You read the art of Jack Herbert, and I reviewed that on an old episode of Braxcast. The cover I like for the omnibus is the mass print, more thankfully. Nice to see you, Mike has bad knees. Hopefully you're having hopefully you had a good week. Hopefully you're going to have a good weekend. But it's nice to see you in the chat. And I do like the mass print cover. But of course, like the limited edition one is of course much more what you would call it. I hate saying what you would call it. Of course, the collector's edition, that's the limited one. They're only going to sell it for the collection. But this is definitely one I like more, because you got this pretty epic, drawing. Of course, Kanan always does fantastic work, but this, I think, is definitely the cooler of the two. Let's see. Hi there, new here. I like the young Isom idea. Nice to see you, Roberto Villacava. Definitely have not seen you. So, of course, like the stream, subscribe if you like what I do, because I just got back from live streaming. I recently moved from New York to New Hampshire, and I've been on a hiatus because I didn't have access to my computer. My graphics card didn't survive the move, so I had to go to Best Buy and get a 5060. I put that in, and I brought my computer back to life. I refused to let my computer die until I built a new one. But I've replaced the motherboard. That actually I needed to do. I replaced the processor because I wanted to upgrade the processor, and now I've had to replace the graphics card. So it's just like I just keep Frankensteining parts to keep this computer going. But it's a champ, named Bolton, and absolute champ. And going to upgrade, I don't know, it's a bit of a probably comparable, because I had a 2080, now I have a 5060, and it seems to work just fine. Although I think I got slightly higher frames in Black Ops 3 Zombies, because it's like 98 on the same settings now, and it was like over 100 if I got it correctly. But it's going to be comparable performance, and it's going to be more power efficient, which is really nice. But anyway, that's me nerding out. But hopefully you enjoy the stream, Roberto, because I want to go back to be doing these every week on Friday. So Friday, 6 p.m., I'm pretty sure that's going to be the time that I do. Yes, so congrats on the move and keeping up with everything. Just subscribe. Thank you so much. And yes, so we'll be doing live streams every Friday, because I do have my new work schedule. I'll be working the night shift, so like 4 p.m. to probably like 2 a.m., even past that, which not the most preferable thing, but I think I've got the opportunity to make some bank with this job, and they offered it to me, which is why I took it, even though, because I don't want to be waiting around forever to get work, which I would have if I were to pursue the other things. So that's why I chose to do that. But thank you so much for subscribing, Roberto. I do reviews of not only Rippaverse books, but a bunch of other comic books. I got to get back on the review horse because I got a bunch of books I got to review. I got, The People from Zabe Comics. I got some stuff from Genuine Comics, Perfect 10 issue number 5, Dream Girl Crossroads number 2. I had a comic I got at Pork Fest, but I've misplaced it. I keep losing stuff. But I hopefully can find that and review that book because I did buy it. I do want to review it because it looked really interesting when I was just thumbing through it, but I did not read it. But I also do Braxcast as recorded episodes. So those are the numbered episodes if you check out my channel. And the last one was number 70, almost a month ago. And that's usually every Saturday. And I've been on hiatus from that because I lost my laptop in the move. It's at a repair shop. And I left it weeks ago. They have not got back to me. They said they needed the battery replaced, and they had to order it. And I've been focused on other stuff. But I really ought to call them next week and say, "Where's my laptop?" Because they might have sent me a message about it, and because they sent me one and I did not get it, so they might have done the same method of messaging me, and I didn't get it. So I'll give them a call and hopefully get my laptop back. But I have the computer, so it's not that big of a deal to me. But again, I'm rambling about my personal life. But yeah, I agree with Mike Has Bad News. This is the better cover because you've got just such a really cool showing. There's a lot of detail. So you got Ingrid, you got Lillian, you got Horace Braxwell. Of course, we got Salvage, we got Saoirse. I believe that's how you say Saoirse. We got Ingrid, we got Horseman, Yaira, Iceman, Bloodroof. Probably the 3 most popular characters. We got Zalen, Michael Copper, Brian Solari. We've got Gooding, of course. We've the one of his robots, which is really cool. So this is just a really, really epic cover. And of course, you got like the lightning bolts from the Rippaverse in the background there. So the background is really cool. Of course, Kanan's art just looks absolutely fan-freaking-tastic. So absolutely cool to see. Again, this is definitely the mass print one, and it's nice that this is the mass print one. You've got the one that's just the shot of Isom as the so if I can I had to go back up there and open the image in a new tab, and you've just got the one. This is what is the collection exclusive. And they'll probably overprint. Although they will overprint. And they'll probably have some extras. After the collection, it'll be like a flash sale thing. But yeah, the mass print one is definitely one that I probably would buy at some point because I might get like a bonus, or I might have some more money at the end of the month after I have the money set aside for my utilities, and be like, hey, why not throw a couple bones for this omnibus. It's going to be on the store. But we got Panax in the chat. Definitely seen you before. Rippaverse needs a shadow type character who is mysterious. That is Dokumon, Panax. We haven't seen much of Dokumon, but Dokumon is that type of character. But if you want like one who's like grounded on the earth, I believe the Lost Pages has, I think, his shadow, if I remember his name correctly, and that's probably the type of character you're looking for. Like one who's based on Earth, in Flores Park, because Flores Park is the center of the Rippaverse. I think it's cool enough when I turn off my AC. And so that way it's not, if you guys are hearing that in the background, it's cool enough for now because it's been just scorcher after scorcher, like on the entire East Coast. So I've been running the AC basically like all day while I'm here, but gonna keep ranting about that. But but to talk to Panax about a shadow type character. Dokumon certainly is that, but of course he's very much only present in the cards. Of course, he's present at the very end of Bloodroof #1, so he doesn't have a really big role in the Rippaverse. So if you're looking for a character that has like a bigger role in the Rippaverse, is like involved in Flores Park, we don't really have that. But Dokumon is the character that is the mysterious shadow type character to me, and definitely love Dokumon as a character for that reason, of course, for his cards being so cool as well. But we got CJ in the chat saying Great War Separation 2 has been his favorite book so far. Looking forward to number 3. Certainly am. Great War was a really good. It's been a really good series, and we're halfway through it, and I'm excited for the issues 3 and 4 because Jack Matt knocked it out of the park with his art, and of course Chuck Dixon has just got such a great story cooking, and we finally got like the origin of Brian's powers in that book, and it's just really really cool. I just love to see how everything's like melding together. This is like the foundational event. Of course, this is I think it's Resistance Publishing who watches a lot of my reviews. If you watch the VOD on this or you're lurking in the chat, thank you. Always, I would say pushes back against me, but he definitely isn't as, I don't want to say, but anyway, I think I'm more of a fan of the Rippaverse than he is, which, of course is fine. He said that they should have started with Great War Separation. And I like how they starting with Isom, even if Isom is a bit all over the place. I still think it's a very digestible book, but that's just me. And I like having read all the stuff I read from the Rippaverse up before Great War Separation, because it just makes what happens in Great War Separation, especially number 2, much more impactful. Having read the first 3 issues of Isom and having read Alpha Core and Yaira, because you're more invested in Brian as a character. And of course, it's just a really good story. So if you read Great War Separation, you're like, oh, Brian Solari is really cool. I want to read more. I want another book where I read about him. You can read Alpha Core. Of course, Alpha Core number 2 is coming this year. It's probably my most anticipated book still. And we haven't gotten that announcement yet, so hopefully that's the next collection that gets announced, because we're like really it's probably going to be like about a year. It's just unacceptable. But of course, like Joe has got like so much going on with having he drew Zalen, he drew Horseman, and now I'm sure he's finishing. I'm sure they're getting Alpha Core number 2 finished up. We've got 12 people in the chat. Really cool. Want more of Brian's team. Also, young Harriet Silman is young Harriet Silman. It's like Harriet Silman. Yeah, she was a really, really epic. And that would probably, like I said, you have a young Isom series, like where Harriet is training Isom to use his powers. It'd be really, really cool. And it should all really start with that. I think you could probably get like a good 10 issue series if you're going by like 56 to 72 pages, which is really where they're keeping the book length. And I think that's a good compromise between having, being longer than typical floppies, which is typically around 24 to 30 pages, versus having these really long, like 96 pages, like we saw with the first 3 books, which is, Isom 1, Yaira 1, and Alpha Core number 1 were all 96 pages, if I'm getting that correctly. But having the 56 to 72, which is a good range. And I think if you had like 10 of those, where it starts with after that fight in Great War Separation number 2, which is, it's a bit spoilers. Sorry about that. Then I think you could have like a good 10 issue miniseries where it's just chronicling the events of young Isom from that event to his fight with Shadron, which we read about in Isom number 2. And that is definitely something that really ought to happen, because the young Isom statue, which is over there, I know you guys can't see it that well, it's off the background, but that's the young Isom statue. And it's just like you have the logo. We have the statue for young Isom. We need a young Isom series, and you could do really, really cool stuff with a young Isom series, especially reading Great War Separation number 2 is definitely something. And also Isom number 3, where the origins of his powers are explained. You could really get into that with a young Isom series. So I really would love to read a young Isom series. And I think Jack Herbert would be like the man to draw it. So like after he's done with Great War Separation, get him on young Isom, or just get him on like more interior artwork, even if it's not young Isom that Jack Herbert does. As long as he's doing interior work for the Rippaverse, I'm going to be happy, because he's such a fantastic artist. So you gotta keep him on the payroll, Eric, if you're watching this, and like I won't accept him not, because he's just such a good artist, too good to not be someone you keep employed. So CJ. Caffeinated Wolf, that's Andrew, thanking CJ for loving Great War Separation. Can't wait for you all to see what's going to dash out of the pages of the Great War Separation. I am too, especially like 3 and 4. It's got a lot of stuff to tie up, because we're in the midst of the war. So but Chuck's probably got about It's about a little bit over 200 pages. That is going to be Great War Separation. So probably, yeah, about halfway through it. Yeah, let's say we are halfway through it. So it's going to be really interesting to see how Chuck concludes the Great War Separation, and of course the fallout from it. Let's see. So Panax would love to see Joe Bennett paired with the Saskas. I would as well. That would honestly be really cool, especially. I'm not sure if he would do like a full on like book, but if he did like a short story for the Ripazine that the Saskas wrote, because the Saskas wrote a short story for Saints and Sinners, which is really cool. And it would be really, really cool to have Joe do like one of their short stories. And that'd probably be something he could work in if he's working. I mean, he's going to have his hands full with Alpha Core and Horseman, certainly. And I'm sure, and I know Andrew's not going to say anything about this NDA, but there's probably going to be more Zalen. And I don't think Joe is going to let anybody draw Zalen. So he's probably working on Alpha Core, Horseman, and Zalen. So I don't think he could take on any more, but you probably do a short story. And doing a short story for the Saskas would be a really cool thing. So I think that'd be the realistic thing to do. But of course, yeah, Joe Bennett's art is fantastic. And the more Joe Bennett art that I see, the happier I get. Let's see. Andrew says, love working with Jack. He's an in-demand artist, but we'll gladly take him where we can. Oh, yeah, that's definitely something that you have to consider. I'm sure he has other gigs that he wants to take. So, and if he wants to work with Image or Dark Horse or, even Marvel and DC, because, those are the projects that he's like, he's perfectly welcome to. But hopefully he can work with hopefully he can keep working with Rippaverse and doing stuff because he's just such a fantastic artist. So, isn't Zalen based on a character Joe tried to do for his own book? He might be. I'm not exactly sure. I don't remember reading anything about that in Art of Joe Bennett #2, which covered Zalen, What Kills Must Die, and Horseman, Welcome to Florist Park. So I don't remember seeing anything like that. I could be wrong, though. I often am. And that might have been something that Chuck mentioned. Chuck does AMAs every Wednesday, so that's something you could ask him. And he would know more about that than me because, he actually talks to Joe and, he's part of the creative process for Zalen. Of course, he wrote the book. So I think when Chuck was writing that book, there's a lot of sci-fi that Chuck wanted to do. That's in Zalen. So there probably could be a lot of concepts that both of them wanted to do in other comics, and they got to do it with Zalen. And Zalen's a really good book. Of course, Marcos Martin, fantastic colorist. He did such a good job with Joe's art in that book. Even, of course, you had some of those 2-page spreads that were misprinted, but it's not even something I noticed in my reading of Zalen, because it's just such a fantastic book. It's just so, it just really just grips you. And like all of Chuck and Joe's work does, because Chuck just is so good at structuring his stories. And then Joe's art, it's just so good. It's like character designs look really good. All the line work is insanely detailed. And of course, those action scenes are just always amazing, especially like when Zalen's like stopping his ship at like freaking light speed. It's just so epic, man. And that's really the big focus for me, is on that. But of course, you can ask Chuck on his like AMA Panax, and he would know more about that than me. But I think there's a lot of ideas that they both had that is present in Zalen, which is always a really cool thing. It's one of the reasons why I love the Rippaverse, because Eric just lets them play in the sandbox, because he knows Chuck does great work, Saskas do great work, and of course all the people that he works with are doing fantastic work. It just is like, hey, do what you want, because it's probably going to be good, and it has been basically with every single book, and I absolutely love to see that. Of course, we've got Rippaverse Comics Twitter. So that's basically what I wanted to talk about. Of course, Saints and Sinners is over $475,000. And that collection, I believe, has closed off. It's closing off in 5 hours. So they're probably going to be they either did a closeout stream yesterday, or they're going to be doing one rather soon. But I did order this original concept art book of Saints and Sinners, which got added as a collection pack. I think number 5 included. I'm pretty sure it was. But we've got, yeah, of course, the hardcover, which I don't think I bought the hardcover because I got all the other covers, but it's really cool that they added the hardcover. And of course, you got this epic Dogumon shirt, which I'm not sure if I got that either. Of course, you get the first and second deck. But yeah, this is definitely one that the fans responded really well to. Almost $500,000 in this book is going to make $500,000 post collection for sure, especially when people get it and the reviews come out, which, of course, I'm going to do a review, and I'll review it like I do every sort of anthology where I talk about each story and I give a very short little blurb. I did that with the Lost Pages. I did that with the Narwhal Shorts Compendium. I'll do a Saints and Sinners. So if you like how I've done reviews of anthologies, it's going to be the same format. And that's how I like to do it, where I just talk about each story and then just give a very short little blurb on the story. But we've got Ram in the chat, seen him before. Nice to see him back. Zalen is the first Rippaverse book that you found some enjoyment in. It wasn't a bad book, and I'm still getting the second one, but it's not that I'm really looking forward to that much. Well, glad you enjoyed something from the Rippaverse, and I guess it's okay if you don't enjoy what the Rippaverse does. But then, I ask, like, I guess maybe you're watching these streams because you find me entertaining, which is a bit a bit odd, because all I do is I talk about Rippaverse stuff on Braxcast. But glad that you're here. Glad that you like Zalen. I think Zalen's a fantastic book, and of course, if you read the other Rippaverse stuff and you don't like it, I don't think I'm going to be able to convince you that it's good stuff. Let's see. We did the Saints and Stream closeout stream at 11 a.m. Central today, and it had to be that way to get all the red coats on stream. Yes, heels versus babyface, as is based in Britain. Of course, the time zone differences, which makes sense. So yeah, I remember seeing something about this, like, oh yeah, I think they did it. So they did the closeout stream, and usually they would have it around like this time. They'd start around like 8 p.m. or so, like 7 to 8, but that'd be like, I don't know, like 3 a.m. For all of those filthy Europeans. So that's why they had to push it up a little bit. But it was nice that they were able to get Az on there. Of course, that was a massive event. I was a little bit disappointed because I was expecting like the launch of the new member site for that big announcement. But this is definitely a really cool thing that Saints and Sinners got announced for that. So the Rippaverse's first anthology being like a really cool thing to announce, of course. That was fantastic. And of course, I imagine this is going to be really, really cool because you got a lot of people involved with this. Like I said, we got Hillsborough's Babyface, we got Jay David, who's appeared on my streams a bunch of times, Eric July, Calum Edwards. Forget exactly who that is. I've got the Critical Drinker, Saska Sisters as well, writing a story. And we got that story where it's going to be about Ingrid Valdez. I believe it takes place between Alpha Core 1 and 2, which is really interesting. So it's just going to give us some great insight into the Rippaverse. And of course, you got some fan flipping tastic art in this, as you always do with the Rippaverse. It's just fantastic art. Absolutely love to see it. But that is really talking about Saints and Sinners. So that collection is closing really soon. So if you haven't gotten in on the collection, would certainly recommend that you do so because you only got about 5 hours. And like I said, this probably is going to make $500,000. And I'm not sure if that will be what reads on the ticker, but that certainly is going to be the case when this book gets into the hands of the fans and the word of mouth gets out. And the word of mouth is going to be most likely positive. It has been for every single book. Of course, you've got people that read the books and don't like them. It's perfectly fine. Like Ram said, he didn't like the Rippaverse books he read. That's perfectly fine. But of course, you got people who, don't read the books but say they're bad anyway. But I find that noise to be drowned out by the fans that say that, hey, I read this, I liked it, and you ought to buy it as well if you like sci-fi books or action books or this type of book. And that's really what I've rather focused on is the fans, the fellow fans, rather than the people who don't want to be fans of the Rippaverse, which again, it's always okay if you don't like what the Rippaverse puts out, what any comic book company comes out, because this is all subjective at the end of the day. But yeah, that is the Saints and Sinners collection, which was a really cool thing to see come out. Like I said, really want that new membership website or membership, the membership aspect of the Rippaverse, because that upgrade has been something that's been talked about for like over a year. It was last June when the site was relaunched, and it was like it was June of 24, I think. Yeah, because it had to be. It was like with the launch of Gooding, the site was relaunched. And that's when it's like, hey, we relaunched the site, but the membership relaunch is still being worked on. It's, I guess, been worked on for over a year. So hopefully it gets worked on. Hopefully when it comes out, it's cool and epic, and we got a bunch of cool features. We've talked about that, but I really want to see what those are going to be. And I thought we were going to do that, but Saints and Sinners got announced instead, which, again, it's a really cool thing. Excited to read this anthology, get some insights, especially with Ingrid Valdez's story, which I believe Az is writing, if I'm getting that correctly. It's going to be really cool to see that. So Az is going to have his own closeout stream as well later tonight, which is interesting to see. But hopefully that's a good one. I'm sure will be. Haven't really watched much of Az's content. I don't even watch Ripping the Silverback. I've watched it a little bit, but it's not typically hasn't been my thing. Let's see. So we're working on the new membership site. It's very involved and complicated, so we're taking our time. Yeah, I'd rather you guys do that and get it, make sure it's right and it launches with out any hiccups. But I guess it's even a bit too much for the steroid hamsters, and which honestly excites me. If the steroid hamsters have to take the time to make sure that everything is working well. But yeah, it's going to be really cool to see what that is like. Of course, we also have the launch of Nerdrotic's book, Waiting for Neurotic. It's basically I guess it's like mostly a novel with some illustrations with, basically his personal memoir, which is an interesting thing. And I think that book made like over $100,000 because Nerdrotic, Gary from Nerdrotic, Send. It's not something I'm really interested in. It's like nothing against Gary. I believe that's his name. But yeah, this book's made over $100,000 already, which is really, really cool to see. Good for him. And of course, he's got a massive fan base, which is why they bought the book, or which why it sold as much as it has so far. But for me, I'm not like a fan of Neurotic. And it's not like nothing against him. I'm just not, like someone that, watched his content and got into it. So it's not like, oh, this book is something that really interests me. But for the people that it does, it looks like it's going to be pretty good. And of course, Rippa Send has always got, high quality stuff. And of course, you got some good merch. You got, of course, the Nerdrotic logo. And of course, you've got signed and graded copies of not signed and graded, just signed copies. And you got, I guess, 2 covers. Sure. Actually, yeah. So you got the soft cover and the hard cover. So it's the same cover, just soft and hard cover, which makes sense. And you've got, of course, this is one that I'm much more excited for. I'm not sure if I back this. I really ought to. It's the Death Shroud Forged in Shadows. This one I'm pretty excited for. So Chad Larson is the writer. Kanan White did chapter 1 and 5, and Ken Marion did chapters 2 through 7. And then Daniel Erm did chapter 1. Andrew Dollhouse did chapters 2 through 7. And then you've got Desi Siente on chapter 1, and then Sinza Matic, who did chapters 2 through 7. And this is going to be like close to 200 pages, I believe, of art. And this art looks really, really good. The fact that Kanan worked on chapter 1 did it the first chapter of the book, really, really cool. And of course, I think Ken Marion's art is probably going to carry that torch pretty well, because his art looks absolutely epic, and I imagine this is showing off some of Ken's art. So fantastic. And I know people liked Chad Larson with all the talent that he was able to gather all around him, including Kanan. And this just looks like a cool concept. So this is only one I'm going to read and review. Of course, this is doing better than the Kickstarter what it originally launched with, because this is collecting everything that launched with that original book and plus all the new content. And that one did, I think, about 32,000, and I never knew about it. But I just remember that number being 32,000. I remember hearing, and it's at $40,000 right now, which is quite cool to see, and definitely something that I haven't quite backed yet. I definitely will. I did back Mighty Golden Patriot, if I remember, just to get in before it closes out. And that's because I got Golden Patriot. And I'm probably not going to back Waiting for Neurotic, because I just don't. It's just not something that I'm into. It's like I said, nothing against him, but it's just not something like, I just don't need it. Because I have plenty of books to read, and I'm sure like it'll be a really interesting thing, but it's not something that's like so like interesting to me. And I'd rather spend that money for Death Shroud, because Death Shroud is like, oh yeah, that's a cool comic book, man. And it's just well like school comics. Of course, the page isn't loading, but this is also another one. This is not Rippaverse, but this is Rainbow the Brute. This isn't that guy. This isn't the all caps comics Rainbow the Brute, but this is one that's launched in I guess in response to Rainbow the Brute not having come out, because I backed it in April of 2022, and I still haven't gotten it. I'm sure he's hard at work at it. I don't think it's going to come out this year, and this book is set. They want to deliver it in October, and that actually happens. That's going to be pretty funny. And it's basically like a parody of the parody. Although this character definitely does have more of the Chris Hemsworth look to him, but it's a very similar concept to what Rainbow the Brute is. What all caps comics Rainbow the Brute is, and honestly, I think it's just a funny idea in general, and that's why I liked Rainbow the Brute as a concept, and I still do. And if I ever get Rainbow the Brute, I'll probably like it, because I like Cyberfrog. I like EVS as an artist. Not the best writer, but I still like Cyberfrog as a character, and I like Wrecked Planet. Dark Harvest I was a bit iffy on, because I think it could have been written better, but it was still drawn decently well. I like the detail, and I like the overarching plot, even if he's missing some stuff, especially with Wrecked Planet with like Colin's character. The side content doesn't really do much of anything, but I like Salamandroid, Seth Sting. Like, I like the general like world of Cyberfrog. I like the general overarching plot line. I really love the art. So I like Cyberfrog's character. Just releases take so long. And of course, like, I probably would like Rainbow the Brute, but just like I don't have it, so I can't say anything about it. So if this book comes out and like scratches that itch for me, that'd be very nice. But that is let's see, that is I guess one thing I wanted to talk about. But that's really all I have to talk about. And of course, I'm getting back into live streaming. So I think Student of God didn't send out the link. He might have done it a bit later. He might have been sleeping. I'm going to check if he did. Let's see, because God. But yeah, definitely have definitely have some people here. 7 people here. But yeah, getting back into the live streaming game is going to be nice. So hopefully, now that I've got established here, and I'm certain that Fridays are going to be a free day for me. I actually want to have off from work. I'll be working Monday through Thursday, and I'll have Friday, Saturday, Sunday off. So Friday at 6 p.m. is going to be working for me, which is the time that I established for Braxcast, which is Braxcast Live. So I'll be able to keep Braxcast at the usual slots that I do, where Friday evening I do the live stream, and then usually Saturday morning, probably a bit later in the morning, because I won't be getting up as early as I used to, because I'll be working nights. So I'll be like shifting everything. So I'm still gonna have to get my routine all figured out. But it's really all I have. Been streaming for basically an hour now. So unless you guys got anything else to say to me, you can see the statues a lot better. But yeah, that's Gyra, that's Isom. Very, very nice to have the statues have made it all in one piece. But if you guys have anything else to say, I'll read it now, but if not, I'm thinking I'm going to sign off. This is a really nice return stream. Definitely going to be doing more streams, and of course, I'm going to be doing a big episode of Braxcast tomorrow, since it is going to be Saturday, and I'm going to be talking about all this stuff. Probably won't show off like all the covers like I usually do. I think I'm going to show off some of Norfolka's art. Going to have to print that out. I have my printer back there. But yes, so great to see you again. I'm sure you meant to type out again, bud. But you probably smushed those two words again. But yeah, nice to be back, which is really nice. And it's nice that I have, yes, again, bud. So you smash those two words together, probably on mobile, or you're probably doing something else, but it's all good. It's all good. That is, yeah, these return stream for Braxcast Live. So glad for everybody who tuned in. Of course, you had Panax and Ram. Of course, we had a new subscriber, Roberto Vicava. Going to shout you out again. Very thankful for everyone who showed up. Of course, all the people who lurk. Very thankful for that as well. But I think I'm going to sign off now. Hopefully, you guys have a good weekend. Joker is out.